Hi guys, how are you doing? I hope you're doing well. Today we're gonna be going over the new Viseart holiday release, which is the Sireneuse Etendu something palette. Viseart comes out with an holiday palette every year, and I also got last year's, so we'll be making a few comparisons. Last year's palette is the Kashmiri Charmeuse, and I have to say this has become one of my favorite palettes. Why? Because this basically has all the shades you need if you are a neutral to cool leaning person like I am. So we're gonna be checking out this Sireneuse palette, which was promoted as having some duochromes and some super sparkly interesting shades, and we're gonna compare them like swatch by swatch. I will also be trying this on my eyes. If everything sounds good to you, please remember to subscribe just to have more makeup videos on your feed. It really helps. But without further ado, let's get into the Viseart Sireneuse Etendu palette. At first impression, right off the bat, I do see that this does have some warmer shades, like this one here. There's like this bronzy gold here, and then we have some duochromatic shades, some pale shades. What I think by looking at this is that I don't see a lot of depth when it comes to the shade. Like, this is the deepest shade they have, and I don't know if on deeper skin tones than me this will be enough to create some depth. And the last year's one instead had this much deeper brown, as you can see. Also, one thing I want you to note is that this palette does not have a mirror. It is built a bit differently than last year's, and I think in general Viseart's palette, because I also have the mini like all matte palette. So this one you open like this and it falls, and you have a mirror. Well, this one just standardly opens like any other palette. It is magnetic. We don't have a mirror, even though the price is the same. I feel like this is something that we have been seeing lately. Brands are either increasing their prices or they are cutting costs somewhere, like the Makeup by Maria palette, on which I made a dedicated video. The packaging there is way cheaper than last year's, and it seems to be the same for this as well, because we don't have a mirror, and mirror costs to the brand, of course, but I paid for this just as much as I paid for this, but I don't have a mirror. I don't really care about the mirror because I still bring with me everywhere my handheld mirror because I cannot see. I need something really close to my face. But in case you are one of those that really loves having a mirror and doesn't bring anything else to do their makeup with, just know that you won't be able to do it with this palette here. All the shades are removable. There's like a small dent here, and you can just pop them out, which is something that I probably do. I think I will create a mix of these two palettes and maybe even the mattes as well, just create my own perfect Viseart palette, the one that is ideal for me. Let's swatch the Sireneuse palette. What really got me about this palette is all these neutral brown shades. I do think that they're lighting when they do palette swatches and, you know, the official presentation of the palette. I do think that that is a bit like, it makes browns feel more brown. I don't know if that makes any sense. So this is the first row. As you can see, the shades are actually quite peachy here. I was not expecting that. And this last shade, I think it's one of those duochromes because it has like some blue shimmers in it, but it has a very strong like beige base. I don't think, yeah, it also has some green. I don't think that on the eye, these are not like your typical duochromes from indie brands where you can see the shift. It's very intense. Viseart is always gonna do something that is more everyday friendly. When they talk about duochromes, you have to keep in mind which brand we are dealing with. The second row is more shimmer heavy. A few of these do feel a bit scratchier, like this gold shade I'm about to show you. That is a beautiful neutral brown. This is the gold shade that is a bit scratchier. This reminds me a bit of the Space Cowboy from Urban Decay because it has white sparkles and a beige base. It pulls very similar, but it has way less sparkle than the Urban Decay one. And then we have this blackened. Yeah, it looks like a black in the camera. It is like a black with some heavy presence of blue shimmers. Yeah, you won't be able to tell. Maybe for my pinky. Yeah, you can see there's some blue in it, but I still believe that on the eyes you won't really notice. It will appear like a black shadow. And the last row we have some cooler tones, it seems, and one duochrome shade. I really love Viseart's mattes, by the way. I think they do, like, they're top notch. Not so much the shimmers, even though this is pretty metallic. We have this duochrome shade. So this is one of those brown that leans blue, which is a very common, I feel, type of shimmer. And then we have this beautiful satin brown. So this is the palette swatch. Overall, you can see it pulls very light. We only have these two shades that really are deep, super deep. But knowing Viseart, you will be able to like build on these shades, but I don't think you will get the same depth as the other one from last year's. And here on my other arm is the other palette from last year. I think you can see that this new one pulls a bit lighter and it has more warm tones, like this row here. We have some very similar shades, like this is a brown to blue duochrome, and we have something similar here, although here we have a much more like mauvey pinkish reddish base, while here this one it's deeper. So here they are like at the same level, and you can see like last year we have more depth, as I was talking about. But let's get this on my eyes and see what we can do with this. So when it comes to Viseart eyeshadow palettes, my first instinct is to always go for a matte neutral look, because I think that those are the shades that really can nail and do perfectly. But I'm gonna try to incorporate a few of these more interesting shades. I'm gonna start my look with this shade here, which is this like peachy cream shade, and I can already tell you this is not the shade for me unless it behaves like that. I mean, it's not super orange on me, which I would have guessed it would have turned out. So it's actually a pretty shade. I feel like it's perfectly neutral in the middle. It has a tiny bit of yellow, but I think it's fine. Honestly, I thought it would be worse. And then I'm gonna use that warmer like terracotta shade. This I'm scared about because this can become really orange. Yeah, I would say it's still not a neon orange, because I feel like Viseart can really do color well. Like they know that an orange that pulls super orange is not gonna be flattering on a lot of skin tones, and there's still like a touch of brown that grounds everything. And as you can see, the blendability of these shades is always like top notch. I'm not even gonna comment on that because that is what we expect from Viseart. To deepen everything, I really don't have a lot of choice because this brown here is cool toned. So what I'm gonna do is pick up this brown satin shade and I'm gonna use it almost as a matte basically, which is something that you can do with satin shadows. They are gonna have a bit more luminosity than your matte, but in the other corner, you won't even notice basically. You can see here that blending it in with the mattes, you really are losing those pearls and it becomes a matte. This is actually a pretty combo. I really thought I was not gonna like this warmer side, that really surprised me. For my lid shade, I'm gonna use that shifty, like purpley bluish brown. On the other eye, I'm gonna do something more neutral. I don't know if I said that already, but this is the duochromatic shade. So on me, it pulls, like you can see a lot of the base, that mauvey base. I don't think that these transition shades really go well with this shade because I feel like it's very, very cool toned. And I can definitely see it's clashing with this shade here in my crease. But, I mean, that's just me. Honestly, I think it's fine. I just would not pair these. For my lower lash line, I'm gonna pick up the same shades I used, the mattes, and I'm gonna just line my eyes so that we have a balanced look. As I mentioned, you can see that this duochromatic shade is not super intense. This is what Viseart does. You're not gonna have indie brand quality duochrome shades, so just keep that in mind. Let's go to the other eye. I will actually use this as a transition shade, this purpley taupe. Yeah, so basically this is the type of shades that I like and that do look like a bruise on me. But yeah, I mean, I got a very tiny bit and I'm making sure to blend everything so that it's not super pigmented. You can add to this and have it be more like intense. You can even do a smoky eyes with this. Again, I don't really have much choice for what to create depth with, so I'm gonna use again this brown satin, maybe a touch more sparingly than I did with the other eye because this is super pigmented. I feel like I have cat hairs everywhere and I can't rest today. I want to add a tiny bit more of that taupe. And now I'm gonna use, I think the most show-stopping shade in this palette here is this one. Like, of course, it's a boring eyeshadow and I will only talk about it in the presence of my lawyer. But keep in mind, this shade really came puffed out. It was almost at the point of breaking. So it seems to be a very, very delicate shade. And this is the result. I do think it's a beautiful shade. It's nothing we haven't seen yet. Like, of course, I think I have a few dupes for this in my collection, but it is a beautiful shimmer. I have some fallout on this side from that satin brown. Again, I'm gonna do my lower lash line. What do we think about palettes being back on the market right now? I noticed that we have a few, and I'm not talking about Viseart because again, they do one eyeshadow palette every year for the holidays. But I think that we are seeing eyeshadows more and more, and I like that. I am a fiend for eyeshadow palettes. Just to see what we can do with this, like, I don't know, is this a beigey shade with some green? I'm gonna top it, but I think it will, I think it just made that shade a little bit like less champagne, more toned down. I like where it's at right now. I just don't think that shade is anything particular, honestly. I'm gonna do my liner and mascara here and I will get back to you. Alright, so these were my two looks with the Viseart Sireneuse Etendu palette. Let me know in the comments which one you prefer. I have to say, of course, eyeliner and mascara really bring everything together. I have nothing bad to say about this palette, if not that the duochrome shades are not what you expect. If you listen to the word duochrome and think you're gonna get something super shifty, that's not what you're gonna get. Viseart is always more on the natural, like wearable, because of course you decide what is wearable and nobody can do that for you. Overall, I like this palette. I like the looks I got. I still prefer last year's. I don't know if it's in stock anymore, if they still sell it. I would still recommend this one over this one, but it's a solid palette if you like the color story. A Viseart palette is always gonna be, I think, a solid investment if you're looking for this type of shades. Just to really bring everything just like to tie everything together. I'm gonna compare again the two brown to blue shades, and you can really see the difference. Here is the one from last year's, the Etendu's Kashmiri, I think, and this is from this year's. So this is gonna be much more intense, and this is much more like everyday friendly. As you can see on my eye right now, I think it's not a lot to wear even on everyday occasions if you like wearing this type of shades. And yeah, I will still create my own Viseart palette. I actually love doing that with palettes. I did the same for the Lisa Eldridge one. Let me know in the comments what you think. If you're gonna get this palette, what you think about the mirror situation. I think that's something that's worth discussing. And yeah, I hope you liked the video. If you did, please remember to leave a thumbs up and also subscribe to the channel because it's free and it really helps. I appreciate each and every single one of you, even if all you do is watch the video. So thank you for doing that, and I will see in my next video, which will be, again, probably, if nothing else comes up in the meantime, about another eyeshadow palette, and I'm super excited about that. So remember to subscribe if you haven't, so that you can see, that you can have the notification for that, and I will see you in my next one. Have a good one, and see you there!